Mercedes has changed their main focus to working on their 2024 car, but that doesn't mean the improvements for 2023 are finished yet. Austin is the next racetrack where the Silver Arrows team is going to bring an upgrade, and it looks like they're going to use it perfectly to make the back part of their W5 car work really well for next season. With McLaren getting more competitive and with Red Bull being way ahead of everyone else, Mercedes needs to make big changes to make sure both of their drivers get what they're asking for, a car that can win races and fight for the championship. The first step toward that will happen in a couple of weeks in Austin. One of the biggest problems that Mercedes has had ever since the new ground effect rules started back in 2022 was the floor of their car and also the rear downforce that comes mainly from this part of the car. The 2022 season saw the W3 having too strong of a back end, which made the car bounce way too much, while the 2023 season saw the W4 having too strong of a front end and being too pointy, as Hamilton explained. So in just 2 seasons, Mercedes managed to build 2 cars that were complete opposites of each other. But after James Allison came back and the technical team got reorganized, it turned out Mercedes started to follow a more normal approach to building the car. The W14 got a B-spec version starting from Monaco, and this is the car that's going to be heavily worked on for next season too, even though Mercedes didn't really see huge improvements in performance like McLaren and Aston Martin did in 2023. The main reason for this was because they already spent a huge chunk of their budget on bringing in the new design in the first place, so that puts them in a very tough spot when it comes to bringing upgrades to it. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that Mercedes has to give up on trying. After all, they do have the second fastest car on the track overall this season, and Hamilton is in a very much alive battle for second place in the Drivers' Championship, even though he has Alonso ahead by 11 points. The Spanish driver has struggled to get more speed out of the AMR 23 in the second half of the season, while the only reason the gap between Perez and Hamilton stays at 30 points is the crash that Hamilton had in Qatar, meaning there's a much bigger chance for him to win second place rather than lose it to Alonso. Either way, the team needs to do something very important. Make sure that the remaining 5 races are going to be very strong and set a solid foundation for 2024, because even though the main development focus has already moved toward next season, that doesn't really mean that Mercedes has given up on the current battles they have in both championships that, as I mentioned earlier in this video. The part that they're going to work on is the floor, as it will get some upgrades about the airflow under the car. As things stand right now, Mercedes has lost their competitive edge to McLaren in the second half of the season. When everything starts again in 2024, it will be in a struggle to keep third place in the Constructors' Championship and not even be in a competition for second place. That is why the upgrades they're bringing to Austin are much more important for 2024 than they are for 2023, even though the threat from Ferrari is still there. The Ferrari team is still just 28 points behind Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, and they're not that far away in the Drivers' Championship either. Talking about this, James Allison, the old new technical director of Mercedes, said, "We will have a modified surface, but don't expect important things. It will give us a bit of lap time, but above all, it will help us understand if we're on the right path." In Suzuka there were some things we liked about our car and others not so much. In Singapore there was everything we liked and nothing we didn't like. Qatar is a bit of a middle ground. Mercedes' current struggles are heavily related to the tracks that have high-speed corners. The ones with medium and low-speed corners tend to suit the car much more. However, if we look at the performance of the MCL60, which is the 2023 version of the McLaren car, we could notice that they're equal when it comes to the slow-speed corner tracks with Mercedes, but they're much more competitive on the high-speed corner tracks like Suzuka and Silverstone. This is mostly because the Woking-based team took an idea from Red Bull but changed it in their own way. That allowed the team to unlock a lot of performance and potential from the car up to a second per lap from where they were at the beginning. One reason why this is possible for them but not for Mercedes just yet is because the W14 struggles a lot with bouncing, a problem that they're trying to get rid of completely in 2025 by bringing in a more complex version of the floor, one that may look like Red Bull's bottom of the car much more than it does now. Furthermore, Allison added, "We'd like to get rid of the bouncing completely. We're still dealing with a bit of bouncing, and this can also change based on the wind, or whether there's a wake or not. These cars are different from the previous ones, but in the end, the setup still works the same. The surface is more important. But then we always talk about ground clearance, stiffness, air vents, and blah blah blah." Obviously, Mercedes doesn't have a lot of wiggle room regarding the technical rules of their car, because nothing much is changing for 2024. So if they want to have a properly working car for next season, they need to end the current season with success. This is something that Toto Wolff has put a large emphasis on. And this is something that Lewis Hamilton has urged the team to look outside the box and see what McLaren has done, as they seem to be their biggest rivals right now for 2024 by the looks of things. Talking about what should change in 2024 and how the team plans to build a car that would be middle version of what Mercedes did in 2022 and 2023. Wolff went on to say, Last year we designed a car that had to take advantage of ground clearances that were too low. This year, too high. Now we think we know what and how to choose. Allison went on to continue with how the car would look in the upcoming season. Adding the 2024 car will be important because given the rule changes in 2026, we will still have 2 years to try to win the World Championship. Next year's car will also have to be the basis for the following one. But make no mistake, Mercedes is not going to enter the 2024 season unprepared. Christian Horner has already raised concerns that Toto Wolff and his team are plotting to get back as soon as possible. The Austrian simply doesn't want to believe that Mercedes won't be competitive in 2024. Considering how strong of a dominance era they've had in the sport from 2014 to 2021, this is something that Andrea Stella has confirmed as well, adding that the team that supplies their engine should never ever be underestimated when it comes to competitiveness. What the whole grid needs to be aware of is that what's currently happening to Mercedes is very likely a rough patch rather than a massive drop in performance, if we believe the words of Stella and Horner. But they are the team principals of squads who manage to get right on top of the technical rules and put their drivers in very competitive machines, something that Hamilton and Russell would kill to have on their team as well. The world champion has promised to personally go to Brackley and see if his feedback is properly used in developing the W15, which would be very important. The competitiveness between him and Russell has now improved to a point of no return. That's why Hamilton wants his team to follow what has already been proven to work. Talking about this matter, the 7-time world champion said, "It's definitely that's an up and down season, and the last year and a half, we have a lot of work to do. I think I know exactly what we need to do, and we've got to have some serious conversations about what we're going to do moving forward." The McLaren is proof of the direction they have gone, and it's impressive how quick they were in the high speed. We have strengths in our car, long runs particularly are great. As soon as we have the rear end that they have, we will be on our way. The evidence is there at McLaren, and we can't turn a blind eye to that, to look at what they've done and go in that direction. That is the direction, but I truly believe my team can do it. We've always been great at putting downforce on the car. It's just that, with the way our car currently works, adding downforce doesn't work, it just makes it bounce more. Obviously Mercedes ran a different concept than Red Bull, and if they chose this philosophy much earlier as Hamilton urged them to do, then it probably wouldn't have come to this scenario. Either way, it was a high-risk, high-reward scenario, as Mercedes had an opportunity to discover something no other team did, which would have put them in a position of dominance for the entire era. As of now, they are the second-place team. And it's all to play for in 2024, so it's up to us to wait and see whether they'll put Hamilton's wishes onto the W15, or will they try to run yet another innovative way to bring the battle up to Red Bull's doorstep in the upcoming season.